Hi, I'm Sarah. This is Hardcover Hearts, and I've got some time on my hands because it's been a 4-day weekend with the Thanksgiving holiday, so I'm filming some videos. And this was a tag that I saw that I thought was really fun because it's just a chatty, conversational tag, and I think it tells you a little bit about me. I know I recently got a ton of new subscribers from Shelley Swearingen, and thank you, Shelley. So this might, for all the new people, as well as some older people who have been around for a while, this might tell you a little bit about me and my preferences. So I thought maybe it would be a great time to do it. This is the Bookish A to Z Hot or Not tag by Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads. So I have my phone here. I'm just going to be going through it. And the key to this really is that you're just supposed to gut reaction. Is it hot? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Hot or not? And through a series of prompts. So let's jump right in, shall we? So the first one is audiobooks. Yeah, I love audiobooks. And I think I love audiobooks because there's certain genres of books that I want to read that I tend to now prefer in audio, depending on the narrator. The narrator will make or break it for me. But nonfiction, love it in audio. I sometimes like mysteries in audio because I think I've made mention to in other videos. I read mysteries less about solving the puzzle than really about justice at the end of the day. This world is so full of things that are unexplainable, that never get solved, that it just feels good to me to kind of put a bow on it and wrap something up. So I love mysteries for that reason. And I also love historical fiction in audiobook. I tend to not like, if the writing is really beautiful, if the writing is layered, if there's a lot there, I can tell pretty quickly like, oh, I need to see this. I need to spend more time so I can highlight and underline and look for motifs and look for themes. And so that will stop me. But yeah, I love them. And I'm a huge public library fan. In California, they let us have any public library in the state you can get a library card from and thereby have access to their digital collection. And each county tends to have their own, if not each city, each county definitely has their own library system. So I can just pull from so many libraries when there's something that I really want to listen to, which has been a boom and saves me so much money. Oh my God, it saves me so much money. So yeah, love them. B is for Bildungsroman, dealing with a person's formative years or spiritual education. I like it if I like a good coming of age story. I do like that. If it's interesting, I like outsider stories. But if it's about someone's spiritual education, not for me. So kind of like halves and halves. C, children's books. Although I loved them when I was a child, not really excited about them as an adult, not really for me. Digital. See previous one about audiobooks. Yeah, I'm a huge digital consumer. I tend to, because of how much I read, I tend to always have a physical book going. I tend to always have an audiobook going, and I also tend to have a digital book going. That way, if I'm standing in line at the bank, I can just pick up my phone. It's the reason my phone is this big is because I can go and quickly go into my Kindle and read a couple pages while I'm just waiting. And I'm constantly doing that. So digital is a great format, and my library connects to my Kindle. So voila, perfect. Also, NetGalley connects to the Kindle, so I can pull NetGalley ARCs that I've been approved for into Kindle. So win, win, win. Experimental is E. Depends. I'm not afraid of experimental. I tend to find women who write experimental much more interesting than men who write experimental fiction. I think it's So I'm thinking of, Deborah Levy, Allie Smith, maybe even Rachel Cusk, potentially. I'm definitely interested in what those women are trying to do, going back to like Virginia Woolf and modernists. So I'm more likely to give experimental a try if it's a woman author. F, fantasy. I don't have anything against fantasy. It's not a genre that I tend to gravitate to. Though when I do, I want to read something that's really fantastic. So, I remember being really inspired by Dune when I read Dune. It's still one of those pivotal moments where I read something and I had a physical reaction. I was so thirsty. I had to read it with a pitcher of water next to me. So I think there's some fantasy writers that I like more than others, and more types of stories. I don't like, like high fantasy. I'm not really as attracted to. So yeah, it depends. G for graphic novel. Yeah, I love graphic novels. I worked at a comic book store when I was in college in San Francisco, and just was always surrounded by and have a deep love since I was a child for comics. And they were a big part of my life growing up in Mozambique, Africa. It was just something that I could get my hands on, and I just loved the medium. It was something I could return to over and over again and always find something new hidden in the drawings. H is for horror. Absolutely hell no. I am such a chicken. I am such a scaredy cat. I cannot do horror at all, period. I is for inspirational. Yeah, I'm not really here for a purposefully inspirational type of books, if that's the purpose of it. Now, of course, I can always get inspiration from books, but if that's what's trying to come across, no, that's not for me. J's for journalism. On occasion, I tend to like my nonfiction, which is what I would assume this is, to be more historical than present moment. So in that, I'm not reading a lot of current types of things that would be considered journalistic. Kitsch has a popular or sentimental appeal. No, that is absolutely not. No, not for me. Thank you. L, library. Yeah, even though this can be considered kitsch, if it's libraries at the center, there is something that's appealing. And it's usually a little cozy. I don't often like them. It's not something that, if it's the one thing on the shelf among other things that I'm interested in, I'll probably pick something else before I pick that. But nothing against it. So bias toward, how about that? And for mystery, incandescently hot. I love mysteries. They are my palate cleansers. Historical mysteries, love them. Mysteries in translation. Oh my God, that is like, I learned so much about a culture and what they value and how they work through bureaucracy, how the legal system works. You just learn about values of a culture through obviously works in translation, but also mysteries in translation. It is a fascinating way to approach it, in my humble opinion. And so, yeah, I'm always down. If I'm not reading a mystery at least once a month, something is not right with me. It's just how it is. N is for nonfiction. I do really like nonfiction. But it has to be based in something. I'm not a generalist. It has to be based on things that I love. So artists, essays about literature and language and writers and biographies. These are the kinds of things that I really do gravitate toward when it comes to nonfiction. Travel also, travel journals, I really do like. For Omnibus. I tend to not like an omnibus. I like to have, I'm really attracted to covers. I really love covers. That's why I buy so many of my books from the UK, because their cover game is so superior to the United States in so many different ways. And so if I'm getting an omnibus, that bind up only has one cover. I don't like that as much. And I also feel pressure in an omnibus. I like to finish it. And then I feel like I have to read it all at once, as opposed to being able to read each individual one in its own time. P, poetry. I'm brand new to poetry, believe it or not. I mean, brand new as with an interest in it. And just recently, I had put my first short video out. I talked about poetry. I've started to read poetry in the morning before I've had any coffee or caffeine, when the sun is coming up, in this moments when I'm still kind of little fuzzy and hazy. Did I say phasey? I'm not as sharp. I'm not as critical, right? I'm not as discerning. And I can just kind of let a poem just kind of speak to me. It's, like an oracle, like, what does it have to say? And I'm open to receiving. And that has been wonderful. It's been such a joy to wake up. It's like a little treat every single morning. So I'm finding my way to it. I would say that. Q for quest. This is when a protagonist goes on a quest, or either physical or spiritual. I think I'm attracted to these, but I don't necessarily read them very often. So yes, I like the concept, but I don't know that I read it very often, for sure. It feels like this is something more YA or children or fantasy based. But if you know any adult quest novels, please let me know. Next is R for romance. I will, every once in a while, as a palate cleanser, I like to shake it up and read a romance. It's been a while. Oh my God, I don't think I've read any romance this year. I might have to change that before the end of the year. It's not a genre that I go to myself, just automatically, but I do enjoy when I read it. And I think it is nice to kind of keep your boundaries open and read different things. S for science fiction. I'm kind of tepid on science fiction, to be honest. I'm not so much of a science person. I don't like dystopia. The world is already so dystopian as it is. I mean, who needs any more, right? So science fiction tends to be some of the least, the kind of like the furthest away from my interests, I have to say. I did start the Murderbot series maybe 2 years ago. Really enjoyed that. That was really fun. And I think the voice was something that came out really well in that. But it's not always my thing. Translation, books translated from one language into another. I live for translated fiction and translated works. I just think it's like doubling your bang for your buck. You're learning something. You're getting a different perspective. You're getting a different perspective from people who didn't grow up the way you did in your environment. I love translated fiction. Love it. Übermensch, the Superman or the extraordinary human? Absolutely not. I could not be more bored if by anything. I just think it's unrealistic. I don't like it. No, not for me. Thank you. V, Victorian, and this is literature from 1837 to 1901. Since joining BookTube, I have become much more interested in Victorian literature. And as I mentioned at the very start, Victorian literature on audiobook is a fantastic way if you're finding yourself like slogged down by the pace, because it's a completely different pace. I really have enjoyed it. Some of my favorites are Anthony Trollope is kind of like right up there. Elizabeth Gaskell, love, love, love. There have been some amazing works that I've read that are Victorian that again, BookTube, thank you. I probably would never have chosen to read Victorian literature were it not for BookTube. Western, so funny. My mother loves Westerns, loves them. I'm not as interested. I think my vista lays further outside of our country than necessarily in the United States. So Westerns have always just been kind of to me, to be honest. I know she hates hearing that because she loves them that much. X-rated. Look, I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed. I mean, but I prefer it to be like literature that has that bent, as opposed to just enjoying a smutty romp. That's kind of less what I would do, though. A romance with some heat, not a problem at all. I don't know that I would go out and just read something because it's X-rated, but if there's literature that I'm reading that has adult themes and adult interactions and sex in it, no problem. Young adult. Why not? I like some young adult. I don't shy away from it, but I also don't seek it out. So I'm a little indifferent. If I hear something that's really great, I'll grab it. And then Z, zeitgeist, spirit or the mood of the times. I tend to find that if it's too hot and too in the moment, I want it to simmer a little bit before I read it. Sometimes living through the moment is enough. I mean, though sometimes I do need to contextualize it. And for that, I'll go back in time and see if I can find some historical relevance and context that helps me rationalize what's happening now based on what happened before. So I did that when in March 2020, when COVID was announced and we were going into lockdown. I did this video where I think I was kind of shell shocked about what do we do, and what books I was going to start reading immediately to kind of understand a little bit. So that's kind of how I approach that. So yeah, that's it. That's all of them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was interesting. I would love to know what your answers to some of that would be. And I guess I'll be talking to you in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.